Hello and welcome to Doubles and Trebles. The 2000 Guineas is just 5 weeks away, and regular viewers of the channel will know how much I love this race, and it just signals the start of the real start of the flat season, and we really get stuck in and rolling into what should be another fantastic summer. This is a period where the talking starts really. There's stable interviews already out there, or stable tours, owners and trainers outlining plans for the coming weeks, who's in, who's out. The anti-post markets have been up since last year. Really starts getting interesting now, and market movers, trials to come in the coming weeks. They'll be there thick and fast. So in this video, we're going to try and get a run through the leading contenders for the 2000 Guineas, a race that takes place at Newmarket on May the 6th. There's the market on the screen, and starting at the top of the market, as usual, as we almost say nearly every year on this channel, Aidan O'Brien as the top two in the market. Who'd have thought it? Little Big Bear and Auguste Rodan. Sheer favouritism, they're around 4-1 each. Auguste Rodan is favourite in some places, and Little Big Bear is favourite in others. But they're about 4-1 best price each. Little Big Bear was the best 2-year-old we saw last year. Got an official rating of 124. That was for his Group 1 Phoenix Stakes win in very impressive fashion last July. That was by 7 lengths. He missed the back end of last season through injury, a theme of a few horses in this market that we're going to touch on today. And he wasn't seen after that win in the Group 1 at the Curragh. He's a no-nay never, who hasn't quite hit the top table with milers yet as a stallion himself, but there is hope on the dam side that Little Big Bear could well stretch to a mile. Aidan is already talking about dropping back in trip if he doesn't stay a mile. Similar comments is made in previous years about 10 Sovereigns who went off a short price in the 2000 Guineas, shortish, US Army Ranger, and others that have been tried in the Guineas but didn't quite stay. And they've got the option nowadays. All these horses have got the option to drop back, and the Commonwealth Cup over 6 furlongs at Royal Ascot for 3-year-olds has really, changed the attitudes there. Little Big Bear, I think he'll probably run at Newmarket, but he's not the one for me. There is slight question marks over his stamina. I wouldn't be 100% against him getting a mile. I think he could well, actually. But it's a big ask to get the mile, and he's going to be going straight there, having not been seen since July. He'll be approximately 10 months off the track, and he'll be straight into a classic over a mile where he may or may not stay. Auguste Rodan, on the other hand, is the other joint favourite, and I'd much rather be on him if the two in a straight match. I was on this channel as far back as January saying the 11-2 available about Auguste Rodan was probably a little bit too big. I stand by that, and he has been trimmed into a more realistic 4-1 now. I mean, would I advise backing him at 4-1 today? No, probably not. You may be better off waiting until the final field and taking, I don't know, 5-2 or similar, and at least you're guaranteed a run at that stage. Auguste Rodan's win in the Vertem Futurity Trophy gets more impressive every time I watch it, to be honest, at Doncaster. Bad ground, a tactical race which split into two, and I think the second and third that day could develop into really quite decent horses this year. Although both Epic Cetus and Holloway Boy are unlikely to run in the Guineas itself, unfortunately, I do think they could turn out to be decent enough horses, possibly not at Group 1, but decent enough yardsticks in their own right. Some journalists even managed to get the words Triple Crown out of Aidan O'Brien in regards to Auguste Rodan at the media visit earlier on at the end of March, earlier this week. That may well turn out to be fanciful talk, let's be honest. But I do think he is the Ballydoyle chosen one at this stage, particularly for the Guineas, and is high up in the Derby markets as well. Auguste Rodan is the one to beat, in my opinion. As usual, it's likely that both contenders from the O'Brien yard will go straight to Newmarket without a prep run. That's the usual MO. On to a little bit further down the market, you've got Dewhurst winner Chaldean. He's next up. He's about 8-1. I really don't know what to make of the Dewhurst in general. He won that at Newmarket last October. That's over 7 furlongs. Obviously, the 2000 Guineas is over 8. I mean, was Chaldean the benefactor of grabbing that all-important stand-side rail at the Rolling Mile and a very good front-running ride from Frankie Dettori, or was he genuinely very good and saw off a strong field in dominant style? I'm not sure, really. I'd probably lean towards the former. It is really important, particularly in 2-year-old races where the the fields aren't that big at Newmarket on the Rolling Mile to grab that rail. We've seen in the past few years how important that can prove to be. Frankie got there, and he was never really threatened really once he got there. Led from around the 2 furlong mark and dominated the race really. And yeah, I just think I don't know how good the performance was as an individual and B the form is. In my opinion, I mean, yeah, I think that there's question marks over Chaldean. Is he as good as the two that we've mentioned from the O'Brien yard? I mean, that's obvious. The market suggests that. Nostrum was third. He's under the same ownership. He was third in the Dewhurst, and he went off joint favourite. Frankly, Nostrum disappointed in my opinion in that race. He was 5-2 joint favourite, as I mentioned, with Chaldean. I mean, yes, he was third in a Group 1, but never really threatened to win, in my opinion. He raced more towards the centre of the track. That might have not helped him, in fairness, but we expected more, let's be honest. Nostrum is 12-1 for the Guineas. It just doesn't strike me as a Guineas horse. He's a big lad. He might be better over slightly further in time, not a mile and a half, maybe 10 furlongs, and possibly he might be better on a flatter track. Plus, Sir Michael Stout doesn't have many runners in Guineas nowadays. That is for sure. So, yeah, Nostrum might not turn up, and yeah, he looked really exciting on his first couple of starts. He actually did win a Group 3 over 7 furlongs at Newmarket before disappointing slightly in the Guineas. So I don't know. Maybe he just had in the Dewhurst. Sorry, maybe he just had an off day in the Dewhurst. But I'd have liked to see more from him that day in the Dewhurst if he was to be a real serious contender for the Guineas. And like I say, with the Sir Michael Stout factor, will he even run? You don't often have horses ready and raring to go at that time of the year, Sir Michael, as we've come to expect. We could see one or both of Chaldean and Nostrum in trials at Newmarket or Newbury in the coming weeks. So we'll get more clues there if indeed they do run in the Guineas. Royal Scotsman was second in the Dewhurst. I tipped him that day at a big price, 20, maybe 20-1. Went off a little bit shorter. He's a big question mark in staying the 1 mile trip. And you'll surely get bigger than that. He's currently 12-1 in the anti-post market for the Guineas. If he was to run, he'll surely be bigger than that 12-1 on the day if turning up. So if you do fancy Royal Scotsman, keep your powder dry. You might get bigger than 12-1 on a day. He might not run, and he certainly might not stay. That would be the question about him. But yeah, he was finishing past some beaten horses, really. We're going to come on to the likes of Naval Power. I thought Nostrum disappointed, as I've already touched on. Marban also kind of disappointed in that race. So maybe the second place in the Dewhurst that looks great form on paper. Maybe it just fell in his lap a little bit for Royal Scotsman. It's difficult to preview any big flat race nowadays without mentioning Charlie Appleby and his Godolphin team. Appleby currently has 7 of the 62 entered in the 2000 Guineas at this stage. Noble Style is the shortest of them. He's around a 10-1 mark. A horse I really, really liked last year. Probably my favourite 2-year-old actually of the whole year. But there is plenty of question marks about Noble Style heading into his 3-year-old campaign. Most of those questions are in and around stamina. Again, a similar theme as to others we've mentioned. He was only seen 3 times at 2. He won on his debut at Ascot really quite nicely in a strong race. The form worked out really well from that Ascot debut in a novice race in May. Then he was favourite for the Coventry at Royal Ascot, missed that through a minor setback. We didn't see him until the end of July, where he won another novice race at Newmarket, went odds on. Then he went to York and won really well in the Gimcrack there. So a bit of a disjointed season. He was then injured again after the Gimcrack in August, and he didn't make the likes of the Middle Park or the Dewhurst at the end of the season. So there is question marks heading into his 3-year-old campaign for Noble Style. And he's done his winning, as you can see on screen there, over 5 and 6 furlongs. He is unbeaten. Will he stay? Probably not. I mean, Noble Style's mum was an out-and-out 6 furlong horse. Some of you will remember Eartha Kitt, owned by Michael Owen and the team. Out-and-out 6 furlong horse. And his dad, Kingman, never raced beyond a mile, but Kingman was very good. If he's properly aimed for it, I'd be all over Noble Style for the Commonwealth Cup. He's currently 10-1 for that, but as we've already mentioned, the likes of Little Big Bear the Commonwealth Cup could be a cracking renewal in itself this year. So, yeah, Noble Style won't be staying in the Guineas, and if he was mine, he wouldn't be running either. Next up for Godolphin is Silver Knot, who is pretty much the opposite to Noble Style. A mile at Newmarket is almost certain not to be enough for him. He probably needs quite a lot further. Silver Knots Dam was a Group 2 winner over an extended mile and 6. That's not to say he won't run in the Guineas. He may well end up being Appleby's leading contender, actually, if and when Noble Style is taken out. Silver Knot won a Group 3 over course and distance, the Autumn Stakes, and he was a no second in the Breeders' Cup in November. He could be overpriced at 25 to 1, Silver Knot. That's probably the biggest. We're going to get to the end of this video and there isn't really going to be an official bet or selection, which may disappoint some, but not others. But Silver Knot is probably the most wrongly priced horse that we're going to talk about today. Like I say, he is 25 to 1. As you can see in the markets there's a standout 25 to 1, shorter with others. I just think that A is likely to run, and I think that if Noble Style doesn't run, Silver Knot suddenly becomes Godolphin's number 1 hope. He's got the form in the book, over course and distance, beating Epic Cetus, who's a good horse, who was second in the Vertem Futurity behind August Rodan, and then on another day he could have won the Breeders' Cup race at Keeneland. He was a no second, as you can see on screen there. Pretty unlucky, got caught in a bit of trouble on the rail. Naval Power is another one for Godolphin worth calling out. He's currently 40 to 1, doesn't even make the screen, as you can see there. But he did go off just 4 to 1 third favourite behind the aforementioned Chaldean and Nostrum in the Dewhurst. He bled from the nose that day, Naval Power, so that may have explained his disappointing performance there. And unlike every other horse mentioned in this video, Naval Power has had a run in 2023. A really easy win in what resembled a Godolphin public training session, really, at Meydan in January. He was odds on. I think there were 6 runners, 3 of them were Godolphin, and Naval Power showed his fitness. But the key there is that, yes, he went over to Meydan. It's not the norm for Guineas winners or Guineas contenders to be over there in the winter, but he wasn't over in Meydan to be contending races on Super Saturday or World Cup night. He just went over there to get some sun on his back. He's been out in January. He's showed his health and his well-being, and he's won a race nicely there that he should have been winning. He was odds on. So, yeah, just a nice key for there. And Naval Power probably didn't hang around too much at Meydan after that. He's probably been home since the end of January. So he's not ruled out. He is a big price, but we probably don't need to see him in a trial because we've already seen him in January there. Also, Charlie Appleby, I mean, he's got the likes of Regal Honour, Majestic Pride, and City of Kings, who 2 promising runs each to their name, really, and firsts and seconds between them. They could be running in trials and to see if they're up for it, basically. So look out for the likes of Regal Honour, Majestic Pride, and City of Wings at the Craven meeting at Newbury over the coming weeks. So that leaves us with pretty much one horse on screen there on the odds checker that we haven't really given a mention to, and that's Sakia. He's as big as 12 to 1, as short as 8 to 1. Another that may well not stay a mile, and unfortunately another that didn't get to prove just how good he was last year, at the back end of last year, because he had a slight injury. That's been a theme of this video, with Little Big Bear, Noble Style, Sakia, all missing the end of the season through minor injuries. Sakia was another one. He's a massively exciting horse, in my opinion. He's won 2 of his 3 starts last year and did so in very easy fashion. One at Haydock, didn't get off the bridle, and then at Newbury in the Group 2 Mill Reef Stakes, again hardly got off the bridle, winning by 6 or 7 lengths. I just wonder, the horses in behind in that Group 2 Mill Reef at Newbury, they admittedly weren't up to much at all, really. But Sakia could have hardly been more impressive, and he could hardly have won it any easier. He did what he had to do. I think it's pretty certain that he might have a go at Newmarket, and I think he's potentially the surprise package. Now, not in terms of under the radar. He's won 2 from 3, and he's a Group 2 winner at 2. He's not a surprise package there, but it might be a surprise package in terms of, I think a lot of people will doubt that he will stay, and that's why his price will be, probably similar to what it is now on the day. I think he'll be underestimated in the market. Similar to others we've mentioned, Little Big Bear, Noble Style, Royal Scotsman. He might not stay. His dam was a pretty awful racehorse, Sakia's dam, let's be honest. She had a peak of RPR of 57 and only ever raced over 5 and 6 furlongs. That wouldn't fill you with confidence about Sakia staying a mile, but he does have 2 half-siblings that won over further than a mile, and the only other half-sibling he's got not to win over further than a mile was by a sprinter himself in Cody Beer. So he could possibly do it. And the dam is a bit of an enigma. We don't, she was pretty awful racehorse, but she might be a pretty good producer of racehorses. So I mean, he could stay a mile on breeding, he might not, but sometimes you just have to forget the breeding and go with what your eyes see. And my eyes have seen with Sakia, I think he could potentially be a really special horse. He showed us glimpses of that last year. He could just simply get the mile on pure class. He's 12-1 currently, but again, you'd be better off waiting for the final field because the breeding naysayers won't let him go off much shorter than he is now anyway. I think he's a really, really interesting contender. And if the race was tomorrow with these prices on screen, I would be interested in Sakia. And as you can see there on screen, he's unbeaten in 3 races. Winning by 6 lengths and 3.5 lengths on his last 2 occasions. He's been really, really impressive. And like a few, as I've already mentioned, we didn't quite get to see how good Sakia was last year because he missed the back end of the season. Um, Normally at this stage of the videos, the anti-post videos, Pieman will ask me, is there any outsider in the market that you fancy at this stage? The answer is no, currently. That might come when we've seen the trials. So, in a massive roundabout fashion, and it's took me 16 minutes to do so, there's a no bet at this stage. I think August Rodan at 11-2 earlier in the year when I flagged it on one of our shorter videos, that would have maybe been a bet, but at the moment I think he's the right price. Sakia's the most interesting runner, and if I was forced to have a bet now, it would be Silver Knot at 25-1, just on the proviso that I think that Noble Style may well not run, and Silver Knot suddenly becomes the Godolphin #1, and he had decent form last year, course and distance winner, second in the Breeders' Cup. But hopefully not quite given you a concrete bet to have, but hopefully I've given you a few ideas on the first classic of the season, how it's shaping up. It's a really exciting time, and I do genuinely think that we've got a really good bunch of 3-year-olds this year, not only for the Guineas, but also for the Derby and beyond. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back soon with plenty more racing content here on Doubles and Trebles.